Our next speakers are a dynamic duo. Amanda Daniels co-founded the first peer-led support group in Los Angeles for women living with heart disease and is a spokesperson for the American Heart Association. She was diagnosed with heart disease at 18 and heart failure at 25. This set her on a spiritual journey to reconnect with her authentic self and help others. Through her lifestyle brand, Flight, she teaches a meditation and mindfulness program to adults and children and sees clients as an intuitive healer and medium. Dr. Karol Watson is director of the UCLA Barbra Streisand Women's Heart Health Program at UCLA and a national leader in the field. In 2017, she was named Cardiologist of the Year by the California chapter of the American College of Cardiology. These women speak from experience about what we need to know for heart health. Please give a warm welcome to them both.
It is my distinct pleasure to be here today, joined with my good friend, Amanda Daniels. My mother has 8 brothers and sisters, or at least she had. Of them, my favorite of all was my Aunt Thelma. Aunt Thelma was bold, forward-thinking, and a little irreverent, so that made me happy. She didn't like to fly, so every time we wanted to see her, we would have to fly to Chicago, which was fine. The one time she agreed to fly was out to my wedding. She flew from Chicago to California and was there for my wedding. It was one of the happiest days of my life, and judging from her dancing and smiling, it was one of the happiest days of her life as well. I was in training at UCLA Medical Center at the time, not yet a cardiologist, but I had some medical knowledge, so she confided to me she had been having this weird abdominal pain that her doctors thought were her gallbladder, so she was going to get it removed as soon as she went back home. I was relieved. The plan sounded reasonable to me, and my aunt would be fine. She went back home, had the gallbladder out, and then a week or 2 later confided to my mother that the pain was still there. It had not gone away. That was a Tuesday afternoon. By Friday, she was dead. She died of a massive heart attack. She was found sitting in her car with a bag full of groceries on her front seat. Turns out the abdominal pain she had had was never her gallbladder. It was always her heart. The obituary honoring my aunt listed the cause of death as heart disease. But given the awful circumstances, I would think of 3 other things as well. Maybe racism, maybe sexism, maybe lack of awareness. Her physicians knew that she had hypertension, and they were aware of that. They treated it very appropriately with medication. They knew she had high cholesterol. They treated that appropriately with medication. What they didn't know was how much stress, anxiety, and depression she had. She was going through a difficult marital situation. She was in danger of losing her home, and she had a difficult job. I'm certain those things contributed to her death. At the time, I didn't know enough to teach her or tell her what she should do, but I've spent the rest of my life making sure that never happens to anyone else. My goal as a preventive cardiologist is to make sure we prevent unnatural, unnecessary deaths whenever possible, and I've spent my life working with that as a clinician, but also as a researcher. We research in my group common risk factors for heart disease that no one else pays attention to. Everyone pays attention to high blood pressure, hypertension, high cholesterol, diabetes, smoking, and I'm grateful for that. But no one pays attention to the other stuff that may not be as sexy or as interesting, but is so common that we're all exposed. Things like sleep disorders, things like air pollution, and things like stress. Our latest research paper took 6,000 individuals, men, women, all different ethnicities, and we collected their urine for 24 hours. Why? Well, because whenever your body feels like it's under attack, under stress, it produces these hormones, stress hormones, that tell you, hey, you're under attack. You better run faster, heartbeat harder. Things have to happen. And if you collect their urine, you can measure the stress hormones. What we found is that the more stress hormones that we were able to see in their urine, the more blockages in their arteries they had. Stress kills. We were not very surprised at the next finding, but it seems that everyone we presented it to was. About half of the participants were women, and the women had much higher stress hormones than men. So we collected surveys at the same time, asking people how they felt, how much stress they were under, things like that. Turns out that even when women don't feel like they're under attack or under stress, they have much higher stress hormones in their urine. That tells you we're under stress a lot more than maybe we realize, and whether we realize it, our bodies realize it. What I know now is that stress is the X factor. I've seen it in heart disease, I've seen it in cancer, I've seen it in everything. Illness is usually caused by what's called a two-hit theory. That means you have to have one thing go wrong. Maybe it's a genetic background, maybe it's smoking or a poor lifestyle, but nothing usually actually happens until you get that second hit. That second hit could be air pollution, it could be bad sleeping habits, it could be stress. Stress kills. My aunt's story did not have a good ending. And at the time, I didn't know enough to help her. But what we know now is that heart disease can look any way it wants in women. It could be abdominal pain. I've seen jaw pain. I've seen earlobe pain. Anything between your navel and your nose that comes on with exertion and goes away with rest has to be considered perhaps to be from your heart. And you have to yell and let someone know. And if they don't listen, you have to find someone who will. And I promise you, I will always listen. So I am so grateful for the brave women survivors that we've met. My aunt's story did not end well, but we've met many brave survivors whose stories did end well. And one of them is sitting here with me. Amanda Daniels is someone I met 10 or more years ago, and we together have tried to get out the word about heart health, heart disease in women, and how it may present differently. And the final thing that we are banging the walls about is that I can never truly take care of your heart unless I make sure your mind, your spirit, and your soul are well as well. And Amanda can help tell us about that.
I'm just going to kind of walk around a little. Hi, I'm Amanda Daniels. I am the face of heart disease. I'm going to say it again. I'm the face of heart disease. My heart story started over 20 years ago when I was in high school. I was a senior in high school over here at Harvard Westlake, and our volleyball team had just won the CIF and state championship. And I had just gotten accepted to UC Berkeley in Northern California. I went in to get my wisdom teeth pulled, right? It's a routine procedure. Oh, I love seeing so many amazing faces here. It was a routine procedure, not a big deal. However, my teeth were impacted, which meant that I would have to go under anesthesia for the first time. So it was the first time I was ever hooked up to an EKG monitor. It's that monitor that reads the rhythms of your heart, right? So I went under, and as I'm coming out of the anesthesia, I'm hearing what feels like chaos around me. Something's the matter with her heart. Get her mother in here right now. Something's the matter. And I'm coming out of it, and I look to my left where that monitor is, and all of a sudden, these beautiful peaks and valleys, they just went flat, and I screamed. I said, I'm dead. Something happened. I flatlined. I'm still here, so I didn't die, right? And I didn't have a near-death experience. They had just unplugged the leads of my heart. But it was probably one of the most traumatizing moments in my life, because it's our heart, right? I'm in a room full of amazing women, and as Karol was saying, I was an athlete, right? I've always eaten healthy. I always took care of my physical heart, and here I'm told that something's the matter. So my mom, who's in here somewhere, we immediately rushed to my grandma's cardiologist, who also had seen my grandfather as well, but she had a cooler with her with frozen peas because we didn't want the chipmunk cheeks, from the wisdom teeth. However, it's like we needed something for our eyes in that moment because we were crying and we were experiencing it together. What does this mean? Something's the matter with my heart, right? So we ended up going to the cardiologist, and that's the first time I was introduced to the stress test and echocardiogram and all these tests. And all of a sudden, the cardiologist came out and said, everything is fine. You just have a simple diagnosis. It's called preventricular contractions, PVCs, arrhythmia, not a big deal. But you have to be careful. You can't really drink a lot of alcohol. You can't do drugs. You can't drink a lot of caffeine because you could die. Sudden cardiac arrest. But go ahead, go home. You're all good. I was, what? And I never went to therapy. I didn't do any of that. And so I just pushed it in my vault, right? This vault that we all have. And I went away. I went to school, and I returned. I was teaching spinning at Bodies in Motion. I don't know if you guys remember this. Spinning and working out, like always. I had started dating and was trying to figure out my life. I was 25 years old. That quarter life crisis kind of thing. Like, what am I going to do with my life? I went into the cardiologist because I had to go in annually. It was a routine checkup, and I thought nothing of it. I've done this before, right? Since 18, I'm 25. It's not going to be a big deal. I went in, and we went through the testing. Everything seemed fine. I left, and then I was called back to sit in the doctor's office this time with my mom again. And this is when it really happened. The first diagnosis, it was whatever. I could just push into the vault with all the other stuff. This one was what I call a heartquake. So this is something I work with my clients on. What is a heartquake? That massive earthquake that we're all, unfortunately, they talk about, the big one, right? Well, a heartquake is something that changes your world completely. For me, it was my medical diagnosis, my illness. For you, it could be the loss of a loved one. Maybe it's a relationship, finances. Well, that moment, it takes like a second for someone to say it to you, for it to happen. But I couldn't hide anymore. I could not stay in that vault. I had to open it. I couldn't escape. I've created this brand called Flight, and it's force multiplied by light. I was forced out of the inertia of just being, of just passing by, living life just to pass by. And I realized I have to start living if I'm going to actually live. So what the doctor said, and my heart quaked, and what he said is, he said, okay, you have a new diagnosis now. Unrelated, maybe, or maybe it is related, but unrelated. It's called idiopathic dilated cardiomyopathy. And what is that? It's a weakening of your heart muscle. You might need a heart transplant. You probably can't have any children because the strength of your heart is so weak. And starting today, you're going to be put on medication that you're going to be on for the rest of your life. I didn't know. Are you kidding me? It was devastating. And he's here, but there he is. I just started dating someone who's now my husband, my partner in life, who actually is part of the reason that I'm here. Apart from doctors like Karol Watson and I'm so indebted to UCLA. Dr. Greg Fonarow, Shiv Kumar, Dr. Pamela Boyer, who we'll talk about later. So I ended up realizing that I have to move through this. I have to move through this heartquake. I have to, it was forcing me to ignite that light within. Who am I? What is my purpose? It's like all of us are here, and there's so many different moments in your life where you encounter these experiences, right? And it's like, why am I here? And I started realizing, oh my gosh, this is so hard, and there has to be a reason for it. Please, there has to be a reason that this is happening to me. And as Karol said, even us meeting just 10 years ago, the different stages of moving through this. And I had no one to talk to. I was 25 years old. I finally met a therapist for the first time and opened my vault and opened up all my fears of dropping dead at any moment. With my condition, cardiomyopathy, it is the #1 cause of heart transplants, and most people figure out that they have it, especially at a young age, is because they drop dead. They suffer sudden cardiac arrest. And of the people that suffer sudden cardiac arrest, they actually end up, sorry, I'm gonna wrap it up. 10% survive. So I'm here for a reason. And I co-founded the first peer-led support group here in Los Angeles for women living with heart disease at UCLA called Women Heart of West LA. So if you're interested, you have to come find me, and we're gonna talk more about the group. But I have one more thing to add. I know you want me to wrap it up. I have 3 beautiful daughters now, okay? I have a 10-year-old, 7-year-old, and a 15-month-old, and it is all because I believe in incorporating the combination, and thanks to the Semel Institute, and also to people like Dr. Karol Watson with the Barbara Streisand Heart Health Center, it is the whole body. And thank you for letting me share my heart with you.
Heart disease is a leading cause of death for women. More women die of heart disease than the next 6 leading causes of death put together. More women die of heart disease than all forms of cancer put together. Every form of cancer is a tragedy, but a woman is 13 times more likely to die of heart disease than breast cancer. And so we have to know what our major threat to life is. Stress is part of that equation. There's a lot of evidence that women bear a greater toll from stress, anxiety, and depression than do men. It's bad for everyone, but it's especially bad for us. And even when we don't feel like it, we may be being attacked by our stress hormones. Thank you very much.